Fala galera, Bota Ponta, welcome, Bota Ponta podcast. I am Coach Lyu and Wilson Egidio. We are here. Wilson, where are you from here?
Times Square, New York.
And today you have a special guest. Wilson Egidio introduce him for you guys. Wilson, you can.
Yes, it's a pleasure. Thank you for coming.
No problem.
Victor Jeronimo. A long-time friend of ours, the family, right?
Yeah.
And had a chance to play with me for a little bit, and in the winter, I guess.
Yeah.
He used to come over and practice with us, with the team that eventually won the national championship. But a soccer person, born in Brazil, a fan of Atlético Mineiro,
yes,
Galo, the Rooster, and a soccer player fan, and came to New York, and today he is a coach and a scout with Queensboro. And we're here to, just talk a little bit about his involvement in soccer, what he's doing, and World Cup, and a bunch of, it's an open conversation. Yeah. Soccer and art can't go wrong. But anyway, so thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Tell me, what are you, what are you doing today with Queensboro, and what else, what are you doing in soccer?
Yeah, of course. So Queensboro, just to give a little background, as we're not the biggest club yet. We're the first professional soccer team in Queens. We're building the first soccer-specific stadium in all of New York. We have a U19 team that's already playing. A bit biased, but I think we already have one of the best U19 teams in the country. We're constantly playing MLS teams. We've won a few friendlies against them, doing very well in USL, UPSL as well. Which is a semi-pro competition. We have them competing against men, and our U19 boys actually got third place in the whole country last season, so we're really proud of that. We have a women's team that debuted this summer as well that did very well. So we're kind of laying down the foundations before we start playing professionally. The plan is 2023, we're going to be playing USL Championship. So with Queensboro, I've been with them for over a year now. I got brought in by a friend I met in college. I was just brought in as an ambassador, slowly became an intern before getting officially hired last August. I began working out with the street team, as we call it, and I still do a lot of work with that as well. We want to be a community club. So we do a lot of community work, a lot of events, anything from just hosting watch parties. We did that with the Champions League final, trying to get more people out watching soccer, to volunteering at food banks and just giving back to community. So everything in between that you can really think of. So that's been great. And then as time went on, I got more involved in the sporting side, as that's always kind of been my goal. And luckily, being at a new club, I was able to be given that opportunity. And I'm really grateful for everyone at Queensboro who has given me the opportunity. So I've been working with scouting. I was brought in by Luis Gutierrez, who was our ex-technical director. He's currently working at Real Madrid now. Mm-hmm. He got that opportunity to work at Real Madrid, and you don't say no to Real Madrid. So he's actually working with Raul, who's an icon of the game. He's working with Castilla over there. So he brought me in, got me involved with the scouting side, and I've been doing that since I think February or March of this year. So it's been a few months now, helping bring in talent for the second team. Second team U19. We're considered Queensboro FC 2, but it's completely U19. So I've been doing a lot of help there. We're currently beginning to plan for 2023 as well.
Excellent. So you mentioned, a professional team in the organization in Queens. So tell me, I love the idea of a local, so-called, a true local team. So how is it? The makeup of your teams. Like you said, the under 19 and below. As far as, are you locally Queens, or you scout around the metropolitan area? What's the makeup of the team now?
It's a bit of both. So Queens is an area that is very diverse. It's the most diverse country in the world. The most diverse place in the world. If it was its own country, it'd still be the most diverse. It's the most diverse borough in the world, let alone in New York. So we kind of face the challenge of how do you represent a place that represents everyone. But I think we've done a very good job with that. We have a lot of kids who are local, coming from Queens, coming from the Bronx, just the New York City area in general. We also have an academy house, though, which to us is normal in Brazil, but in the US, not so much. So it's completely free housing. We're completely free to play. That's also our very much one of our goals. We want to end the whole pay-to-play system in America. So everything we do is completely free to play. So we have a lot of players from California, Florida who have come, but we also have players from out of country. We've had kids from Spain, 2 kids from Korea on the team this year. One unfortunately just had an ACL injury, so he went back, but he will be back with us next year. A couple of kids from Chile. One kid just joined us from Argentina. So
Do you have some Brazilians or no?
we're working on it. We're working on it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you need.
Yeah.
Your housing is mainly out of towners, like
Yes.
for now. Okay.
Yes. So
But that's exciting because that's the first time I hear a club, actually in the US. I've been involved with the game for a long time, as you know. But it's common in Brazil,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
The housing of players. And not only out-of-towners, but also local kids that need a little more support as far as
Exactly.
the diet and supervision and all of that. So that's very exciting. And but you made it sound like at first there was a problem of having such a big diversity, community. But it can actually be.
Oh no, it's a great thing.
It's
a great thing.
Actually,
100%.
soccer-wise, I mean, there's no better setup than having.
Definitely.
And I'm familiar with Queens and New York in general, but you have the Yugoslavians, you have the Spanish, you have the Brazilian. I mean, you name it.
Greek too.
Yeah, Greek, a big
lot of
major.
Greeks. But it's everything.
Are you the first Brazilian in the club, or has another Brazilian there?
Yes, I'm the first Brazilian in the club. We have someone who's actually one of the coaches. Like, I'm not part of the coaching staff. I help them as a scout. But one of our actual coaches, he's Mexican, but he actually worked in Brazil for a while. Mm-hmm. So perfect Portuguese, really good guy.
Where he.
It was a team in
nice
in the interior, around Amazonas.
Oh, okay.
So smaller.
Because Brazil is the best school for learning.
Exactly. So, but he's been a great coach for us. He's actually the person who stays in the house with the kids.
Oh.
We always have at least one coach living in the house. Obviously just make sure everything's running properly. So technically I'm the first Brazilian, but he's also kind of like an honorary Brazilian because Portuguese is literally perfect. He worked in Brazil for years. So
okay, well, congrats. And
thank you.
But also tell us the the link with Davi Villa. I know the program. It's DV7. If I'm not mistaken, Davi Villa 7, and I know he is huge on social media. I had a chance to talk to some of his people when they first came to the US. But tell me his involvement and how does it work? How is he going with that?
Yeah, so Villa obviously ended his career here in New York, and during his time, I think he kind of just fell in love with Queens a bit and saw the potential for having a team in Queens, in a place as diverse as Queens. It just makes sense. So he got involved, and he's kind of been the main public figure, just because obviously everything he's done in his career. Spain's all-time leading goal scorer, won Champions Leagues, won a World Cup, you name it, he's done it. So obviously having someone like that backing our club is massive. His connections are also massive, of course. So he's involved a lot more in the background. He lets our coaches do the work. Our coaching staff has been all brought in through his connections. The head coach of our U19 team, Diego Gomez, he worked at DV7 in California, and he was given this opportunity to come here. He played in Spain, actually. So that Barcelona's academy, Real Madrid's academy, so he understands the game very well. So that's where those connections come in on the sporting side, where it's just people that Villa knows, just makes it a lot easier to get in all this talent.
Now, I a little bit about Davi is that we all know his resume in soccer.
Yep.
Barcelona, the Spanish national team, a world champion, and all of that. So I knew and I watched it, but it wasn't until he came to New York where he was playing here at NYCFC with a buddy, Jack Harrison, that I played with me. But that I really came to appreciate him as a player.
Yeah,
he was an amazing player, not a big guy.
Yeah,
but it comes to for those of you that think that a striker has to be big, and he wasn't big, but he was an amazing player. And I have to say that he wasn't on his prime when he came to New York. That's why he's here. But still a very good soccer player. So I'm happy that you guys have the. His name because it's obviously very helpful. So what is the goal for Queensboro? What do I know you touched a little bit here and there, but what do you guys want to do when you grow up?
I think the goal is to really just change soccer in America for the better.
You can. The tour is happy. You can keep talking.
Coming up here.
Yeah. So to change soccer in America, really, I touched quickly upon the fact that we are completely free to play, which, I mean, like Wilson, that's not normal here. As someone who's also...
That's news to me.
Yeah.
Sounds like news to my ears.
Yeah, so...
Good news.
Good news, definitely good news. So, and like even me personally, I had been priced out of playing for... I won't name a team, but team out in Long Island at a high level because it was just way too expensive.
Yeah.
So we want to completely change that, just being free to play, having housing that is also completely free. It's interesting to me. I was actually talking to a player that I scouted, and he was he's coming over for preseason next year. And he's like, so what are the fees, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, everything's free. And he was in shock. So one of the main things we want to do is really drive that forward. But we also want to be very successful on the field as well as off the field. As I mentioned, once again, with how diverse Queens is, we really want to bring the community together. I think NYCFC Red Bulls, with all due respect, could have done a bit more work in the community. They've definitely done some, but I look at teams out in Europe, teams out in South America, and the work they do in the community there, and we kind of want to replicate that here. Yeah. And just helping create a really local soccer family, really. So we really want to do that. And in that sense, I mean, that'll also help the sport grow with Red Bulls, with NYCFC as well. So a bit of everything, really, changing U.S. soccer and being more free to play.
Or what do you guys talk about?
That's not really
behind the doors.
That's not really up to me. That's up to the people that are a lot more important than I am.
People that have the money.
Yeah, the people with the money, exactly. I mean, I think our goal for now is helping the USL Championship really grow and become to the level of the MLS without really.
Here, Uzii just got here, so just bear with me. He's a little bit.
But yeah, just the USL has really high ambitions. They want to create a relegation promotion, which is, again, not a normal thing here in the US. So
the goal is to solidify themselves as a second league, which is really with that is needed. And
I think the long-term goal is to have the USL compete with the MLS. And I mean, you saw in the US Open Cup this year where there being a USL Championship team in the final, you see that the talent is there to compete with the MLS teams. So
I always believe that there's so much talent out there other than, what's on the MLS.
Yeah.
And also, but, we touched about an interesting point there because, developing this relationship with the community is so important because, as you know, in Manhattan here, I have had some great teams.
Yeah.
We won 7 state championship and 3 regionals and 1 national. And you don't do that with bad players. And but I have cases where I can mention because it's a fact that the Red Bull, for example, they came in and they took 3 of my players. And I never heard from them, actually. It was the parents coming to me and said, Wilson, you decided to make a move. You got an invitation to Red Bull. I said, God bless you. If you think that that's the best move for your kid and for you, just go ahead. But there was never like, hey, thank you, or you good taking this kid, what do you think about, there was never a sort of a relationship per se with the club. So hopefully you guys will be able to handle this a little bit better.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, and something I've noticed in my short time scouting, that sometimes there can be a bit of a disconnect between the clubs that don't have a professional team, such as like Manhattan Soccer Club, even like Dusk, Met Oval, etc., where they end up going to NYCFC, they end up going to Red Bulls. Even some of the kids have come to us now, where it's like it could be a bit difficult. We definitely try to keep an open communication with everyone.
So is that the difficulty? Because let's see, we have the first line of teams, MLS, like we have the Red Bulls locally, Red Bulls and NYCFC, and then you come in as the next step, which is like between the clubs, the local clubs, like you mentioned, and the MLS. So you find yourself in the middle there. So what you're saying is that it's a little more difficult for you than it is for...
No, I just mean it's difficult in the fact of, obviously, Met Oval and stuff, they don't want to lose their best players. Right. But obviously, these players are looking at NYCFC and Red Bulls for that opportunity to play professionally. And then now we're the third professional club that comes in. So it's like, oh, there's this new professional club. Oh, it's right here in Queens. But we also don't want to, as you've experienced yourself, just start taking these players and not really having an open line of communication. So it becomes tough to really keep a good relationship while also trying to get the best players in the area. Okay. So that's what I mean by it can be difficult. But I think we've done a good job with it so far, especially Red Bulls and the YCFC have been great. Like, we've had players already going back and forth between both clubs with ease.
That's what I was going to ask, your relationship with them.
Yeah, no, they've been great. We have, like... It's funny because even if you look at like Met Oval's roster has a lot of kids who came from NYCFC, and NYCFC have a lot of kids that came from Met Oval or whatever. Okay, yeah. So we're the same way in that regard. We have a lot of players who came from all of these academies, even if they just played one season there. But we actually have two players on the inaugural MLS Next Pro NYCFC roster who played for us. The real star of it being the guy who was our captain, who's a local kid from Queens, Piero Elias. I don't know if you know him at all, but he's a phenomenal player. He was starting for New York City FC too, and fingers crossed he gets a pro contract because I think he deserves it. But just stuff like that. You make me
feel like bad that I haven't gone to see your team play. I know you invited me a couple
Yeah, I have.
So now after this, I'll make an effort to go.
No, yeah, for sure.
Keep on inviting me in one of those days.
Yeah.
I would love to go check
I know you're busy, so don't worry about it. But
there's always busy with soccer, so it's just one more soccer thing. It's like now just going back, getting away a little bit from Queensboro. MLS, let's jump right there. So, you grew up before you got involved with Queensboro, or even now. So you have your view and your experience with MLS. What do you think the league is right now? I mean, how is it?
I think it's a league with a lot of potential, but I don't know if they're really doing what they need to unlock the potential. I think it's a league that has, I don't know the exact number, but I think it's around 30 teams. It might be more.
32, I believe.
It might be 32, which is, again, even the leagues in Europe, the leagues in Brazil, it's 20 teams, 24 at most in like the second division in England and stuff in lower leagues.
You try it in Brazil, it doesn't work.
It doesn't.
You try it, you put 26, you put 28, the guy say put 30, the guy say no, move back 20, that's it.
It's just, it's a very weird, and the way that they do it, but I think the quality is getting a lot better. I think the next step is really trying to incorporate like promotion, relegation, really giving these teams something to play for. I think they just tried to copy the U.S. model on basketball and football, and it works with those sports, but it doesn't work with soccer. So like not having relegation, like a team can lose every single game in the season and it doesn't make a difference. Like it doesn't really sit right. And especially when you have this many teams, like you can break the league in half at this point. And I understand it's still in comparison to the rest of the world, a very new league. There's new teams like every year, so it's hard to be like, oh yeah, you're going to go to the second division. I get it. It's not that simple. But I think if the league really wants to grow, that is the way forward. But I do think in the last few years, we've seen massive steps. And even yesterday, I was actually at Citi Field. I watched the NYCFC Inter Miami game, and the quality was very good. Which I was pleasantly surprised about.
In particular, you talk about, let's go back a little bit. Yeah. The quality was good, but when you look at NYCFC, for example, the top players are Brazilians.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I was actually talking with the captain of NYCFC, and he said there was the cultural conflict there, where the Brazilians are very lively and easygoing and sort of irresponsible, and but they are the best on the team by far. So anyways, that's interesting. So what you're saying about and so here's my question: are we developing the talent either through MLS or anyway? I mean, are we getting better at the younger level and bringing players up? In your opinion,
I think so, and I think it shows in the U.S. national team now. And you look at I never know whether to say they or we when I talk about the U.S. But in the World Cup, the U.S. is going to be the youngest team on paper. And when you look at players like Tyler Adams, Brendan Arison, who are both playing at Leeds, Pulisic at Chelsea, Reina at Dortmund, these are players who are very good and came up through the American system. Weston McKennie at Juventus as well as another one. And these are all very young players. And I think that is testament to the work that the MLS has done in the last few years at really kind of going more focused on the academy rather than college and the draft. My personal opinion, and as someone who works as a scout, is that college soccer is not really the best route to go down.
I'm with you.
It can work. Jack Harrison, who worked with you, is an example of look where he is now, but I think that is a very rare case.
We're using him as an example of a college player? But his college career lasted 4 months.
No, that's what I mean. I'm saying he's...
He was never in state.
No, I'm using him... I'm using him...
He was like, what am I doing here?
I'm saying he's one of the very rare players. Like, I'm saying he's very different. Like, that's not normal to happen in college soccer where you go to college and then you play well. So, because the way I always explain it to people is... you go into college at 18 and then you play a few months and then you're in the off season. What you do in the off season in college, we won't even talk about. And then if you're one and done, you're ready. You start playing professionally you're around 19 years old. If you're playing through an academy, you're playing professionally at 16. Yeah. So you're losing, I think, 3 years of development. And also college soccer, it's still, I think, a very old school type of soccer where it's a lot of long ball, it's physicality, it's very different. So I think that there was too much focus on that.
It's not the right place to develop a player.
I don't think so. I think there's some programs that are good, but...
It's too difficult, it makes sense, In Brazil, you have two ways. Or you go to school, or you go to soccer. It's impossible you do two ways at the same time,
But what over here, they're trying with the academies,
Yes, and I think they're getting a lot better at that. So now...
I think that's, that's the reason, or one of the reasons why, the better players are able to stick with soccer at a better level and be able to push the game up and develop.
Exactly. And now you're seeing more and more players staying with academies, signing professional contracts at 15, 16 years old, whether it's in the USL, whether it's in MLS, you're seeing a lot of younger players make their debuts. Even here in New York, NYCFC signed Carrizo, who's 14 years old, to a pro contract.
Yeah.
So
I agree with you. I think that when you mention names in there, I think today you can mention 6, 7, 8 guys, if not more, that are playing top leagues in the world. And before, I've been following soccer here for 40 plus years. And I remember the U.S. national team was like a half a player, and then it's a one player, and then 2 players that you can actually say that is a bona fide. I still don't think that, we are creating consistent, maybe 1 or 2 out of those guys can, if you take them out to play in Brazil, for example, when you look at the top 10 teams, I don't think those guys would start there. you know. I think we're getting there somehow. But anyway, so, it's good to see, from you looking from Queensboro, looking up, sort of, if you want to call it that way, to MLS in the US. So what do you expect the US in the World Cup? What are you looking at? First of all, let me ask you a tougher question. Brazil, USA. Who do you go for?
Oh, that's not a tough question. I'm Brazilian. I'm Brazilian. I was born in Brazil.
I like you for some reason.
Yeah. that's not a tough question at all.
Your second team, US.
I mean,
my friend's daddy using him
in the background called Senegal.
No, if I don't consider. I'm Brazil all the way. If Brazil gets knocked out and the U.S. is still in it by some crazy miracle, then I'll support the U.S. I want the U.S. to do well, especially now me working in U.S. soccer. The better the U.S. does, the better it is for the game in general in this country. But I'm definitely Brazilian. Okay. But in terms of how they will do, I think they'll make it out the group. I think they should make it out the group.
Yeah, what are you looking at that group? U.S.,
Iran, England. I can't even remember the last team. Wales, which is also tough.
My director is.
Thank you.
He'll be in front of the camera soon.
Wales. I think the US should be better than Wales as a whole team. I think Wales, they do have Bale, but even then I think he's not the player he was 8 years ago, of course. But I think the U.S. should be better on paper. I'm not the biggest fan of Greg Berhalter, and I think the talent that is on paper isn't showing on the field in terms of how they play, and that comes down to the coach. So I don't think they'll do very well. I think 2026, with a different coach, it being here, and these players with another 4 years of development, it's too early, but I think the U.S. will be a dark horse for that, and I think they could actually go far. But I think 2022 is a bit too soon.
Okay.
So I think they'll get out the group. And then obviously it's up to whoever they play. They'll probably get second place, get knocked out in the round of 16. That's
I'm not going to make a mistake that I made in 2014, the World Cup in Brazil doing well. And I used to tell my friends and people, we're looking for second place because you know who's going to win. Now, I'm not going to make that mistake again. But it still will look very good and everything else. So how do you see Brazil's chance this year? How do you like the work that's done by Tite and the players we have?
I would be very surprised. I'm with you where I went into 2018. 2014, I didn't think we were good enough. 2018 saying that it's up to us, and I still think that Belgium game, if we replayed it 100 times, we win at 99. That was the one. That was the one game where everything just went perfectly for them. Lukaku,
for you, right?
Lukaku will never play that well.
They played 1,000%.
Yeah,
they played 1,000.
Yeah,
but they lost in the next game.
Yeah, but I think we're better this year than we were in 2018. I think we have a bit more depth. I think, and all of a sudden we have 3-4 number 9s that just came out of nowhere. Firmino's playing well. Richarlison's playing well in the national team. Pedro is killing it in Brazil.
You have two.
Gabriel Jesus. So I think our attacking talent, the work Chichi has done, I'm a big fan. I'm a very big fan of Chichi. I know people in Brazil, especially in the media, were very one loss and suddenly it's I remember after Copa America it's Chichi think he bought it, Chichi has to go, and I'm let's relax.
Yeah. I'm not crazy about Chichi, but I'm all for him because he's representing us. Yeah. I hope he's a winner. I think he's too much of a preacher for me. He preaches too much, but that's my taste. But like you said, I think
he has nice numbers.
Yeah, I think that going Brazil from center mid up, it's loaded and very difficult to stop.
Yeah, I think the only issues we have is right back and left back. But the last few games, I like the way he's set up the team. It's a back 4, but offensively it becomes 3. The last game he played Militão at right back, so it became 3 center backs, and I think it was Alexandru. Yeah, he was the left back was slotting into midfield. And I think that was a really interesting way of kind of getting rid of the issue we have there. But I think we're the favorites together with Argentina, because Argentina is also playing very well. I think it's between us two for me.
I think we have the talent, and like you said, everything has to click. A lot of things have to go right to actually win the World Cup.
Yeah, that's the thing. World Cup, it's one bad game and it's done.
But anyway, so I think that's But I appreciate your.
Of course.
Coming over, and we should do this again. And I promise you, I'm going to check some of your games out.
Yeah, we'll be waiting for you there.
I'm always for good soccer.
Yeah.
If you think, if you say your team is good, then they play good soccer. I'm all for it. And say hello to your parents down in Belo Horizonte, Pratinha.
Yeah.
Newton e Eliette. Abraço, família. E tamo junto. E vou fazer uma visita aí, hein, pro norte de Minas Gerais. Abraço, até a próxima. Thank you very much again.
No problem.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Yes.